Good morning, my name is Kirsty Dignam and I'm here to look at the weekly energies with today's Monday's Musings on the 15th of September 2025. I'm acutely aware of the amount of information that I could become entangled in as I read into the energies that are going on at the moment. And that feels quite important to take stock, but also to have a level of responsibility of what you want to focus on. Now, that's not to say that everything occurring isn't important. And if anything, this week I have seen so many different reactions based upon this, based on the beauty that on an individual level, we have priorities, we have values, we have things that are important to us, ways of being that are important to us, with an imbalance of acknowledging that that's different for everybody, that needs to be different for everybody. If we were all on the same page, if we all had the one vision, if we all had the same values, had the same beliefs, had the same structure, there would be no change. And uncomfortable as that may be, much as we are taught, particularly in the spiritual world, that it's one vision, one love, one future, one way of being, actually it really isn't. And anything that comes through different can only grow and be expanded in the many different ways that it is seen or held space for. So this week it's really, really important to feel into what is calling you. There is a lot, I've actually taken a few notes from my own journal today, because there is so much going on. And one of the things I want to speak about is really structuring our priorities. This morning I decided to have some rest rather than rush into work, and that felt really important, to get our grounding, to get our rooting, to get ourselves sorted first. Our priorities don't always mean that they are external priorities, and that can cause a knee-jerk reaction, particularly in a society or a community that are to be of service. We forget that we are at the centre of that service. We forget that we can only do so from the level that we're at, or we can feel guilt and shame for that. And I've seen a lot of that play out this week. I've seen a lot of opinions and judgments and situations spoken of or shared that may not agree with each other. And rather than acknowledge the differences and from there find the common ground, it has triggered deep pain in people. And there has been an invitation there to witness that, to be with that. What I have seen is a projection of that instead, based on how we believe people should be. And I need to be mindful that I don't step into the same energy. So I am sharing what I've been asked to share in relation to the energies this week. And I need to be aware of my own opinions with that, because again, these situations that we're seeing unravel, much as they may not be comfortable or what we would prefer to witness, in witnessing we give them space to be seen and to be heard and to be brought home to a place that is more of genuine belonging, not shame and guilt. And that is what I'm seeing. People that feel certain ways or that share certain things being accused of not sharing other versions or views, being accused of not feeling a way that they should. This is, we can't dictate how people feel. We can't dictate what is important to someone, and doing so in underhanded, shame-based, guilt-based methods adds to the pain. This isn't something that we don't know, and surely we can feel that now. And that's the invitation this week, to really take time to rest the body, to be with the wisdom of the body, to acknowledge what is going on. Now, that doesn't mean to do nothing, and I've actually put in my journal, that doesn't mean do nothing. We will all be called to act in different ways, but to do so from the ground level. This weekend I shared a couple of live videos and my weekly musings and my daily posts, and I can get caught up in there not being much interaction with that. And then I went to the village market which is what I do every month, and I offer donation healing with a friend who does readings. And the energy was palpable in my own community. It was palpable, the things that had occurred, which I'm not going to go into. There's been enough of it out there, but there has been an impact on humanity. And for those that can't see that, you know, maybe they're not able to see that, or maybe they are asked to perceive something else. But I personally could feel the impact. And on a ground level, I got out there in my community and did some healings and did some reflexology and did some massage and was of service in the way that I was asked to be of service. And that's the key thing here. We're not being asked to do nothing, but equally we're not being asked to do what everybody else is doing. Yes, my ego could say, why is no one, and it does often, why is no one watching the videos? But on the other side, I'm in the community doing healings, and that's working and that's helping. So there are many ways for us to bring balance and restore harmony. We are all different. We all need to be different. Really appreciating that. And what I've written here is to do so from the ground level, our own included. There's a lot being stirred on the collective, many things, but also a lot closer to home that are being avoided. And you can see that that's being avoided in the knee-jerk reactions that are occurring. I'm seeing a lot of people that are reacting from being accused and not feeling enough. So they are lashing out that way. Or I'm seeing a lot of people that are overgiving in their energies, overgiving in the information that they are being given, overgiving in their healing, overgiving in their families, whatever situation they're in. And as a result, that is becoming obligatory. That is becoming a duty rather than to be of service. What I'm getting at here underneath it all is to keep coming back to your body. We have that second Virgo new moon coming up, to keep coming back to your body and make it the priority that it is. We are all going through a lot. We are all shifting and moving a lot. Yes, being triggered by the collective. Yes, being triggered by our personal circumstances. But we are going through that. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge the importance of that. Take time to nurture yourself this week, and particularly as we go into 2026. Can you be still enough for the change to come within you first, and then your environment? That is the invitation, particularly at the end of September, because we're going to start to get a bit of a structure for what next year and 2027, yes, I'm going to go there, is going to bring forward. Last night I didn't sleep very well, and it's becoming a regular thing. And when I tuned into it, it is going to become a regular thing for the time being as the body adapts to many of the initiations that it's going through. Insomnia will be one of them, muscle aches, headaches. Yes, we can call it downloads, particularly with the third eye and the ears and the head and the sight. There's a lot of clearing going on there. And what I was shown last night is it's very much related to the seer's rights, very much related to the light code into the neural pathway, which a lot of people will recognize from the Moon Eye key rights, but that are happening collectively anyway. These new neural pathways are opening up, and they are what we could call downloading information, but it isn't. It's a remembrance from within. We are remembering these codes from within. They're not something outside of us, and it's time that we start to see, yes, we can receive energy, but that energy, what that does is that brings up a remembrance within us. It's no different with the things that we don't like as well. So when we see something and it triggers or glimmers us, it's bringing up a remembrance that wants to shift and come back into a place of acceptance, belonging, and therefore healing. The other thing we need to really wrap our head around is how we perceive healing. You know, when all the time we perceive healing or anything that we want to shift or change from a perspective of fixing, it isn't actually giving it its potential. If we can bring things into a space of acceptance, now that doesn't mean that things are okay and that they can carry on that way, but an acceptance of where things are. What we're doing is we're bringing it into presence. When we bring it into presence, we're bringing it into the neutral or the feminine. When we're bringing it into the feminine, we're bringing it into the energy of the soul. The soul is the feminine energy. We're bringing it into the energy of the mother. The mother is the creator. So everything that is going on, bringing it into a place of stillness, doing all you can to find that stillness. And that doesn't mean doing nothing. I'm here doing a video, I'm channeling energy, I'm going to look at the future, shall we say. But there's a stillness within me that can allow that flow, that comes from putting my own needs first. And I understand that that can be difficult to wrap our heads around, you know, particularly if we've been trained, programmed, or handed down to us that we are of less value. Let's face it, if we don't put our needs first, if we don't put our own life first, we are saying we have less value of our family, less value of our job, less value of spirit. It doesn't matter how well-meaning that is, that's what we're saying. And I'm not saying that that isn't the case. I've been a single mother. I know very well that it can be great to want to go and do X, Y, and Z, but the family's needs must come first. I'm not saying that that isn't applicable. What I'm saying is value yourself within that circumstance as well. And where possible, find the stillness. Doesn't mean you have to stop. Doesn't mean you have to go off and meditate or go on a vision quest. Find the stillness within. Breathe. Come back to your heart. All those things that you love, your family, your job, spirit, whatever it may be, your relationships, allow them to bring you back to your center. And from there, act accordingly. Now, accordingly, I don't mean accordingly to anyone else's plan, but your own and your own heart's coherence. A peaceful heart is very, very powerful. We don't live in a society where that's valued. It can be very wishy-washy. It can be very idealistic. However, a powerful heart, a fierce, calm heart, gentle strength can be what will really deliver something different, particularly as we go into 2026. So what else have I written? Yes, the ground level. I've put here that I feel a return to the ground level and priorities, particularly rest, holding space for the body that's going through immense change. Again, remembering that the body is what creates. We are physical for a reason. The body is what creates, whether that's a health plan, whether that's a new job, whether that's a relationship, whatever it may be, the body is what creates and can only do so from the level that it is capable of, acknowledging that, honouring that, respecting that. I loved this weekend, but this morning I was so stiff, and I did realise that actually I'm getting the amount of work and I'm being of service to the level that I can, and until I up my own physical game, that's going to stay the same. So acknowledging that, having honour and respect for that. If you really want to change things, start from yourself physically. I found it exhausting. I've put here that I found it exhausting watching the reactions of others to each other and the pain increasing throughout it all. At one point, I want to say we must. At one point, there's the invitation there, the encouragement there to take responsibility for the pain that we feel and that we are capable of feeling and witnessing. And the more we look after ourselves, the more able we are to do that. Again, to watch things unravel. The human body, when it experiences pain, gives itself what it needs in endorphins, but it needs to experience that pain. It needs to, I'm not suggesting that we do things that are uncomfortable or abuse or anything that we're not capable of, but in a safe environment, if we can experience what is occurring, we can find the answer to it. Whether that's uncertainty, whether that's pain in our body creates endorphins, whether that's asking for something different and witnessing everything unfold first so that something new can come in. If we can allow ourselves the presence of that, things will start to shift. So what do we need in order to do that? What do we need in order to feel safe? And that is what it comes down to this week. How safe do we feel in our relationships? How safe do we feel in ourselves? How safe do we feel in our environments? How safe do we feel in what is being created around us? And the truth is, from what I've seen this week, not very safe. Not very safe. Acknowledging the truth of that so that we can take responsibility for it. Staying with energies that are loyal. Now that can be a double-edged sword, but ensuring that you are in environments that are loyal to your growth, that are loyal to your security, that are loyal to helping you achieve what it is you're trying to achieve. And being aware where you may not be and believe that you are. Okay, so we can all find great comfort in surrounding ourselves with people that agree with us. Feels safe, right? It feels great. We can belong and everything's hunky-dory, but we will reach a stalemate because growth comes. When different atoms collide together, that's what causes change. Growth comes from having these different energies and finding a more expansive way, whatever it is we're trying to grow. So what are we being loyal to? Underneath it all, what stories are we being loyal to? It is an invitation, okay, this week. The other thing that I wrote Can we sit with the changes, with what is happening, which I've already spoke about. But last night I didn't sleep. I've put here, last night I didn't sleep well, which I think is going to become a regular thing for some time as the body continues to change, particularly the third eye, crown, ears and head. The seer's right development within an opening of neural pathways and light codes, all to do with our ability to witness. For the wisdom keepers that we are becoming, and to allow the knowledge to reawaken within us. What kept me awake last night as well was the blind whacking against my window. So it was the blind that woke me. And that's the other encouragement, right? If we see things that we think, are we really still here? Which I did. I did this week. I saw things and I saw the pain and I saw the almost backwards motion. I saw the blindness of what was occurring, and that helped me wake up again to what it is I'm here to do and how I can be of service, and recognizing that that backwards motion, much like labour, will be what will move us forward. This week, anything that irritates us, frustrates us, makes us believe that we're not getting anywhere is actually an invitation to just gently lean in, nudge forward. What can we bring to this situation? From a place of grounding. The other thing that I noticed as well, the wind chimes outside that normally help me sleep, that normally are a sound I adore, I work with sound therapy, was actually distracting me and getting on my nerves. So being aware of things that once, again, it's that loyal energy, being aware of things that once helped, that once supported, groups, situations, people we may follow or that follow us, ways of being, we've outgrown them, and they may be distracting, they may be irritating even. Coming back to the body's wisdom and really, really listening to that. Finally, 16 minutes in before I look at the energy this week, I've just noticed, and literally just noticed, and it will be the things that we notice right at the end. I get the analogy of when I used to be a midwife, people would share so much information, and then it would be just as their hand was on the door and they were about to leave, they would share what they really wanted to discuss. So this week, yes, there's a lot going on, but what's at the tail end of it? Focus on that. Don't get caught up in the noise of it all. Focus on the hidden this week, particularly as the veil starts to lift. Focus on the things that we wouldn't normally see. The knee-jerk reactions are taking over. They're taking control of situations. What's underneath it? How can we see this differently? What part of that have we not noticed before? Allowing ourselves to expand in our own perception. You know, the third eye and the ears and the crown and the altar major as well. Yes, they're all going through an upgrade, and yes, the neural pathways are going to receive more light. However, if we don't notice that, if we don't expand what we're focusing on, it's going to take a while to remember within. So the thing I noticed this morning, my husband has a bottle of White and Mackay, I think it is, whiskey. And on the front of it was a competition with the opportunity to win £333. Now, for those that know numerology, this is no coincidence. What I noticed was how spiritual language or symbolic language that is old to our soul, that is innate within us, wisdom within us, is being utilized to take our energy towards more addictive substances, be that alcohol, be that situations, be that ways of behaving. We are being really, really tempted to stray under the guise of it being a spiritual path, or under the guise of it being divine wisdom, under the guise of it being synchronistic. Now remember, to be synchronistic, it means to be in sync with Chronos, to be in alignment with time. Synchronicity comes when we're present. It comes, all of these languages, they don't need to be shown externally, they can come from internally. So watching what's happening at the end of things, keeping your eyes open to things you may not have noticed, and that includes vision, that includes wisdom, that includes particularly spiritual, divine knowledge. There's a lot of underhand, hidden languages. Once we know what people resonate with, we can really manipulate that. So being mindful of that, we can do that. Society does that, and we can do that also. You know, there's been many times I've read the tarot and thought, oh, that fits my narrative, lovely. But actually, if I'm being completely honest and stepping back and witnessing, that's not what was coming through. So the tarot has no good or bad, no light or dark, no positive or negative. It just is. And this week, if we can stay in that energy by coming back to our body, we will notice where appealing language that we may have been loyal to, or visions and images that we may have become adhered to, may not be serving us to the greatest of our potential. So energy this week, let's put that to one side. Yeah, the other thing I want to mention, really observing our old behaviours. This week I have my husband home for a few days, so tomorrow we're going to go to the cinema and we're going to go out for a meal, which is something we haven't done in a long time. And I have some work Friday. I have more expansion in my life, more variety in my life, which is what I really want. And all of a sudden I'm starting to think about the blog that I need to write, the newsletter that I need to write. Something has to be sacrificed, something has to, I can't have it all, right? Underneath it all this week, really feeling into that energy and where it may be holding you back, where it may be holding the situation back, and where it may be holding back what it is you're asked to create as well. Because sometimes we can't have it all. Sometimes something has to give. Sometimes we can't be in a circle where everyone agrees. Sometimes we can't be in a world where everything is hunky-dory. Sometimes we can't burn ourselves out and overstretch ourselves. Sometimes things have to change, and sometimes we need to fill into the truth of that. Okay, because what happens when we do that? We prioritise. We prioritise, right? The world will carry on spinning if I don't write a blog, and I'll write it if I want to write it. You know, rather than that duty, I must write this information that's been given to me. We prioritise. For me, my husband is very important, and I want to spend some quality time with him. So if that means the newsletter doesn't get written, so be it. The world will carry on spinning. You know, the work that I'm doing Friday is important. It's part of being of service. I can write about it, or I can have my hands on it and do it. Acknowledging that any discomfort, any feeling of having to choose this week, particularly with repetitive themes, are an opportunity to prioritise what matters to you. Life is too short. In this moment in time, what matters to you? What will you not get back? Concentrate on that. Allow that to take many of us down a different path now. Okay, energies this week and how to best navigate them, because we're 22 minutes in. Okay. It feels good to clear the air. It feels good to say what is going on. This is what's going on. You know, whether that's on the collective or whether that's for yourself in your own situation. Do you know what? This is what's going on for me. This is what I need. And to say it to the universe as well. So many times we don't connect and say, oh, you know, this is happening and I really don't know what to do. I can't da-da-da-da-da. Instead we lash. Instead we, you know, the internet has almost become a, what's the word? Well, it's like an all-present being, isn't it? It's like everything. It's the first place we go to when anything happens, you know, to look at something, to understand something, to share something, to speak to someone. It's normally the first place that we go to. How about this week connecting back to the body first? How about this week just pausing, taking a moment? In the old days, we'd have to walk to the library to get information. And in that walking to the library or getting a book from the shelf, we would get clear on where we were first. How about just taking that moment before we share, before we seek? Because the chances are the person we need to share it with is with ourselves, or the information that we need to seek is with ourselves. Yes, of course, the Ace of Wands. I'm not going to reshuffle the pack. That feels quite important to acknowledge that that's what's happening, this inner spark. The other day I really tuned into my third eye, and as I did I could feel it shifting, but it wasn't about what I saw. It was about connecting to this energy. Just try it. Just looking behind my two eyes, looking here into my forehead, my whole body relaxed. Now we know this. or one would assume that we know this, because this is where the DMT comes from, right? When we connect to that space there, taking a moment, closing our eyes, looking into the third eye space and breathing, allowing the body to ground. When we think about grounding, it often comes from the root chakra, but we ground in all of our chakras. We ground in our root chakra to the earth. We ground in our sacral chakra to our emotions, and we feel more stable in them. We ground in our solar plexus to our power and to our soul and our soul family. We ground in our heart to an expanded consciousness. We ground in our throat to a voice and to our ability to channel with our higher self. We ground to our third eye, to the vision that we're trying to bring forward and the seers that we are. And we ground to our crown chakra so that we can open ourselves up to our fullest potential and the world around us. So really, really, and of course all of these points around here, really, really feeling where we're grounding. If we want to see something different, close your eyes. Close your eyes. And that doesn't mean put your head in the sand. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm saying is come back to the in vision. Close your eyes. What would you like to see? What are you actually seeing? So that you can start to view things from a more light perspective. That doesn't mean bypassing, that means seeing everything for the greater vision that is there. When we do that, when we spark that spiritual way of seeing things, that genuine spiritual way of seeing things, we are then faced with more options. Which is the invitation this week, the Ace of Wands, that spark here to look up. This is all spider's webs here, to look at our ability to create something different in how we choose to see it. Again, this is nothing we don't know, but how embodied are we with that? My light just flickered. Yeah, my light flickered. I'm having to bring in different sources of light today and shut off the light that's outside because it's stopping the reflection being seen. And that really is what we're facing this week, with all these different versions of light, with all these different opinions, with all these different views, with all these which are all valid. We can lose sight of our own. Keep coming back to that. And if you feel your light is flickering, what do you need? What do you need to rebuild that stability in who you are? Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Overall, I'm not going to say it's going to be an easy week. It doesn't look particularly gentle this week, but that does depend on how you see yourself. Overall, we have the Hanged Man, and that's why I say it depends on how you see yourself. With the story of the Hanged Man, Odin takes out his eyes so that he no longer sees the obvious, so that he can go within and find the wisdom of the runes. He can go within and find the symbolism of the language of the earth. This week is an opportunity to really look. How do you see yourself? How do you believe others see you? Where are you coming from with that? What I see here is being hung over the psyche, hung over the subconscious, almost sacrificing ourselves to that energy, just like Odin. However, once Odin found the wisdom, he then shared it. Are we sharing the wisdom of our Christ consciousness, of our ability to see, of our patient hearts, of our fierce warrior-like energy, whatever it is for you? Are you sharing that wisdom from a heart space? Or are you sacrificing yourself to it? Are you being held over or held accountable for something that is no longer yours to be sharing? What are you reaching for? What are you trying to achieve? In this deck, oh yes, it can be something as simple as you go to those yoga things that hang from the ceiling as well, you know, having time to be with your body also. But in this deck, the Hanged Man isn't actually tied to a tree. In this deck, it's the feminine, and she's hovering. She's supported from above. She's hovering, and in that she can reach for what is needed. She's not held back or restricted. This week, where are we keeping our own feminine wisdom held in how can we release it a little bit? And that may be our emotions, that may be what we feel, that may be, look, this is going on for me, and actually I need X, Y, and Z, and that may be to ourselves. We may need to share that wisdom with ourselves. On the Monday we have the Eight of Cups, and there is an opportunity here to walk away from things that no longer bring you sustenance or light, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, particularly if that light, that way of doing things has been all you've known. Hold space for that, have ceremony for that, be with yourself as your body walks towards something different, something greater, something brighter, but also mourns the past. This is the Eight of Cups, so it's mastery, and it's about how we master our emotions, but knowing that that's an ongoing process. We can get so impatient with ourselves and with other people, like, why are we still here? Why is this still happening? I can't believe it. Okay, but it's an infinite process. Mastery doesn't just happen overnight. I was doing a thing with Alberto Villoldo the other day, not personally but online, and he was talking about the master and the slave, and how we're all slaves to the system. We're all slaves to our own beliefs. We're all slaves to something in our lives, and we really want to be the master. And then when we finally become the master, we realize that the master is the slave also. And from there we become the seer. From there we become the sage. From there we recognize this is an ongoing process that we can actually be a slave and master to. Or we can step back from it all and just witness it unfolding as part of the ongoing flow that it is. We have a choice. We can keep focusing on the things that once kept us alight or just kept us alight, or we can start to move towards, use it to move towards something different. So if something triggers you, glimmers you, okay, this is bringing up this. Am I going to react and stay in that smaller energy, or am I going to use that and expand my response? It's not to say don't react to it, but maybe just stretch yourself a little bit and see whether or not this is actually giving you that spark of creativity to deliver something different, or whether you're caught in a bit of an emotional loop. On the Tuesday, if we don't take time out, we could get quite defensive. Okay, so again, it's got that almost yoga-like theme to it. Yes, you could start doing yoga, you could start doing exercise or meditation, but remember, what do these things do? Well, they bring us into flow with our body and physical actions. So finding something that will help you really feel into what is going on, and what is going. Feel into what is going and move with it. Allow it to keep processing, allow it to keep shifting. Not to get too caught up in how that should be, too defensive in how that should be, and just trust the body. We have become so defensive with our physical body that it somehow doesn't know what it's doing, that our emotions are wrong, or other people's emotions are wrong, or actions, or whatever. Trust the body. Bring it back to that, because that's where the safety actually lies. That's where the security actually lies. That's where the vision and the ability to deliver it actually lies. Okay, and I keep saying the word lies. So again, being aware where we may not be aligned with our body's own truth. I'd love to work every day. The truth of the matter is my body won't let me at the moment, can't let me at the moment, because it isn't there. And that's okay. I can get very caught up in the old story of that, or I can be aware of it and do what I need to help that move along, which for me actually is yoga. So really recognizing that there is an opportunity to learn more about the situation and to bring in something different. But first, not defending ourselves against the situation, but being open to it. We're all in our own little bubble here of how things should be, how people should react, what's going on in the world. And the truth of the matter is none of us have a bloody clue. Not really. We only know our own version of it. It's so much more expansive than we can ever imagine. The more shut off to that, the less we are going to understand, the less compassion we are going to have for ourselves and for each other, and the less change is actually possible here. On the Wednesday, we have the Two of Swords. This again reminds me of the Hanged Man, and it again reminds me of Odin with his two ravens here. What are we blinding ourselves to? My inability to sleep last night was the blind whacking against the wall. I kept thinking there was someone trying to get in, trying to break in, and it kept waking me up. I kept feeling unsafe. What am I being blinded to? My own lack of feeling safe. Where don't we feel peace? Where don't we feel sure? Where don't we feel safe and secure? Come on, let's get honest with that. Let's really tune into that so that we can start to provide that. Why is that important? Because on the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we have our first major arcana in the actual week. We have the Hangman holding energy for it, but our first major arcana in the week, and it's the World card. We cannot be our fullest potential if we deny our shadow. It's not possible. We cannot be our fullest potential if we just want to walk in the light. We cannot be our fullest potential if we just want to walk in the shadow. So where do we feel unsafe? Where do we feel less secure? Where do we feel uncertain? Where are we doubting ourselves? Because it's becoming obvious in what we're sharing in the world. It's becoming obvious in how we connect and the world that we create. So on the Tuesday, we have that little bubble, right? We have that bubble of spirituality. But what that's done is form a bubble around us on a physical, emotional, intellectual and spiritual level. Being mindful of that, particularly as this bubble is the snake that's eating its own tail. Round, around, around, around we go. What are we being loyal to? How is that impacting how we see the world and how we see our own place within it? On the Friday, pause, take stock of where you are, take stock of what you need. The Friday, my throat feels quite sore, take stock of the communication that needs to be spoken. We have the Page of Cups, and in this deck in particular, the character is split in half. It's literally one world walking between the worlds on the Friday. Part of us crossing, part of us in the physical realm, and we may find that in people around us that we love also. How can we be the bridge for that? How can we be the bridge for energies that want to cross over? How can we be the bridge for energy that wants to come in? How can we expand our heart? How can we expand our vision? Well, in this card is in expanding our frequency. I don't know if you can quite see that. There's a load of lines coming from this character's chest, and it's full of symbolism. And in that there is dreams of connection and union. And in that there are dreams of things that haven't yet quite occurred. And those dreams can feel a bit lofty. Those dreams, we may want to protect ourselves and defend ourselves from it because they can expand us too much. And they can bring in too much hope. And they may not quite occur the way that we want them to occur. And we can really, really doubt that. But if we can keep our vibration and our frequency not higher, it's not about keeping it higher or lower or light or dark, it's really beyond that. If we can keep our frequency our own, if we can keep coming back to that energy and grounding in our own soul and our own potential, if we can radiate that, that becomes the bridge. Whether that is energies that want to cross over, we can do so with love and assist that. Whether that is things that want to come in, we can do so with love and assist that. We become the creators on the Friday. On the Saturday, there's confusion. On the Saturday, it comes down to physicalness, and we can be quite lofty on the Friday. We can be quite spiritual on the Friday. I'm trying to think when the new moon is. It's over the weekend, isn't it? Yeah, so this new moon is about taking any vision that we have, any hopes and dreams that we have, but really embodying them, really bringing them down to earth. And that can come with a bit of a thud if we focus too much on the physical, or the way that we focus on the physical. We can think, well, I can't do this because I don't have the money, or I can't do this because, like me, I can't do more work because I can't physically do it. Well, yeah, I feel that in my heart, my higher heart. Well, yes, that is the situation at the moment, but I'm not going to focus just on that. I'm going to focus on the fact that I want to do more work, and that's the opportunity on Saturday. Are we going to focus on the things that we can't do? Thank you. Are we going to focus on the things that we can once we have ensured we have nurtured the things that we can't? Once we have ensured the reason why we can't do things are being looked after, acknowledged and maintained, are we going to focus on what we're lacking, or are we going to focus on what we're capable of? You know, a lot of the things that we're seeing, they are that ace of wands. They are a spark, they are a trigger, they are a glimmer. They are not the whole picture, but they are becoming that. Again, this morning I could have woke up and thought, right, that's it. My body's done a little bit of work. It now can't do anything, and that could become the whole picture. And then nothing gets done, and nothing changes. And I can get very caught up in that it must be solely about me. There's a difference between putting ourselves in the center of something we're trying to achieve and making ourselves the only thing that we're trying to achieve, or like today, okay, I'm mindful of that. What do I need? I need some more movement. I need some more exercise. I need some more balance. I need that very thing that I'm trying to get rid of, which is spending time with my husband, or bringing in a slight amount of work. So really looking at where you may be focusing too much on the glimmer, particularly when it comes to security, particularly when it comes to money, particularly when it comes to abundance, particularly when it comes to the things that you feel may be at threat, your opinions, your judgments, your way of being, your loyalties. Okay, really looking at where that has more focus than it needs to. On the Sunday, we then have the card was the Four of Pentacles. On the Sunday, we then, and it's like pulling at the purse strings. That's what I see. It's almost like pulling at the purse strings, or we can believe it is, but what it's actually doing is pulling at the heartstrings. So all of these things, yes, they make us feel unsafe or unworthy or fill in the gap, but what they're doing is pulling at the heartstrings and asking us to expand that inherent coherence, and seeing that for the inheritance that it is as well. Seeing this week, I worked with the maternal line of my ancestors, giving great gratitude first to my mother and for the body that created me, the body that fulfilled my needs when I couldn't, when I was in the womb. I then gave thanks for my grandmother and down the line. Seeing the inherited wisdom of the maternal line, the inherent wisdom of the feminine within us, and how that is triggering us to look at where our hearts have been closed down, not to the circumstances around us, but the feminine line itself, because the feminine is the soul. On the Sunday, we then have the King of Swords, which then feels more direct as we get past this new moon. It's a solar eclipse as well, isn't it? So yeah, our light may feel a little bit dark this week, and it may not be an easy week, but come the weekend, things are going to be more direct as we go into the following week. We have the equinox. After the solar eclipse and the new moon, we have the equinox on the Monday. I myself with my family are going to be involved in justice in certain situations. We may all find that the following week. So this week it's an opportunity to look at what we're defending, where we're defending it from, and how expansive we can be towards what actually wants to come through for the following week, because there is more clarity, there is more discernment there is more honesty there is more of an opportunity to get real. But this week it starts with us. And as we lead into next week, yes, our actions are going to be more aligned to the truths that we have faced and the truces that we have faced this week. Okay, so two major arcanas, the Hanged Man and the World, and this is where I want to come. I can just see now underneath it all we have the medicine wheel, the wheel the Wheel of Fortune, the medicine wheel underneath it, and the Ten of Cups. So things are shifting, things are changing with that season there, but obviously we're at the top of that. Are we going down into our shadow to bring forward some light, or are we being asked to take that light forward and share it? Acknowledging where we are in our own cycles, allowing those glimmers, those sparks to really give us the wisdom that we've been searching for in how we portray that. We have two major arcanas, the Hanged Man and the World card underneath. It isn't the Empress. If it had been the Empress, I would have suggested really I'll always suggest getting out in nature, but I would have suggested getting out in nature and recommending that this is actually a real moment of transition and birth. However, it's the World card here. So it's about seeing first our own ability to deliver. No change is going to happen unless we do that. And acknowledging where we don't. Acknowledging where these glimmers and these triggers wobble us because we believe what is being said, or we believe what it is we feel, or we believe the narrative that we have become part of. Acknowledge that first so that the following week we can start to really bring in that change. We then have 1, 2, let's put that there. Sticky relationships. a real spaghetti mix mash of emotional energies where thoughts become feelings again, nothing that we don't know, but we're not being able to differentiate between emotions and thoughts and spirit and our actions. This week it could really benefit us all to acknowledge they're all one and the same, but to see where we're coming from. Is this our mind? Is this our emotions? Is this spirit? Or is it a 333 on our whiskey bottle that is confirming what we want? You know, really looking at the language that we use this week. We have 2 cup cards, the 8 of cups and the page of cups. When we can see ourselves through the beauty of the eyes of the mother or the universe or love or potential or dreams or visions, when we can really see ourselves through those eyes, yes, that's going to bring up things that we may need to move forward from. And that may bring with it grief, but remember, it's grief that is in the way of love. So if we can allow ourselves that process and really open up our vision and our expansion and feel what is going on in our body, that grief becomes a normal, ongoing process. As we release, we bring in. As we release, we bring in. At the moment, we're kind of caught in the grief. Letting go, letting go, letting go. It feels like all we've done is work or do this or do that. And actually, what have we received back? Well, that becomes our responsibility in how we choose to see ourselves worthy enough of receiving it. If we're finding yourselves in circumstances that are draining you, get out. Walk away. Turn off the computer. This isn't bypassing, this is basic needs, okay? Because if you're not at your greatest when you're sharing something or giving something, then you're going to feel that. You're going to feel that and you're going to feel out of balance, and whatever is given, received, shared, whatever is going to be out of balance. This is codependency of our emotions and the emotions of others, and this week it's really important to take responsibility for that, to see the beauty that you are and the sacredness that you are and protect it, even if that means from yourself. We then have 2 wand cards, the Ace of Wands and the 7 of Wands. There is a new way of connecting to things, and it is going to come through being sparked, being aroused, being glimmered or triggered, or seeing things. You can call it downloads or whatever. It's a remembrance within the body. How open are we to that? Or are we comfortable in our little bubble of having set twos backwards and forwards, or, you know, being the person that brings calm when no one else can, or being the person that points out different views? Where is that actually coming from? Are we happy in that little world? Do we want to expand our role here? We then have 1 pentacle card, which is the 4 of Pentacles, and there is still a clinging to that what makes me feel safe, what makes me feel physically abundant, what makes me feel secure. These relationships, I may not like them, but they're what I know. This situation, I may not be happy with it, but at least I know where I stand. Or, you know, I have a good income doing this. If I change who I am, everything changes. We change. The world changes. How can we expect the world to change and yet we want to stay the same? Be that our beliefs, our judgments, what we do, who we are. Come on. When someone gives birth, they change. They go through a rites of passage of being someone that hasn't got a child to someone that has got a child, and that gets acknowledged. They become a parent. When we acknowledge what we're capable of and our responsibilities and what we're feeling and the emotional strength and wisdom that is there, we change. If we haven't, have we acknowledged that power? What are we holding on to? Okay, and then we have 2 sword cards. So we have beautiful balance with our spiritual energy, our emotional energy, and our mental energy. The physical side, a little bit out of balance, but that's where the new beginning comes. So when something triggers us, makes us feel something, that is an opportunity to restore balance there, provided we can let go of the way things have been. Our mental energy, we have the King of Swords and the 2 of Swords. Let me put them back to the order they were in, which was the 2 of Swords and the King of Swords. It's important to look at where we are blinded. It's important to look at where we are not looking. It's important to see things that may be a bit uncomfortable so that we can decide what our priorities are, so that we can get into alignment, not just physical alignment, emotional alignment, spiritual alignment, but divine alignment. Oh God, part of me would love my videos to be seen and to have that interaction just for the work that I put in. But if that isn't what I'm meant to do, so be it. Here it is. Those that need it will get it. And I will continue to do my markets because that's where I'm divinely aligned. So acknowledging that your divine plan might not be what you want. It might not be how you think it should be, but it doesn't make it less of a plan. Okay, let's have one card. We're 50 minutes in. One card overall for the energies this week. Things are starting to fall apart, to fall out, to move on. And with that comes the invitation to allow anything that stands in the way to do so as well. We have the Empress and we have the Eight of Wands, and the wheel was underneath trying to pop itself out again. It is related to the feminine. It is related to the mother. It is related to how we create. It is related to our relationship with all of that within us. And if we can realign to that, either through external circumstances that point out where we're not, or internal emotions that help us to really feel into where we need to be held, where we need to be nurtured, where we need to be loved, then the changes this week with the Eight of Wands, once we get that alignment, is really quite swift. Because once we're held in the wisdom of the womb, once we're held in the wisdom of the mother, once we're held in the knowing of the feminine, we're reconnected to our soul. And from there, that's where we really deliver the potential of the world that's trying to be born through us. Take care, and I'll see you next week.